My family said, "She's not good enough for us. End it or you're no longer part of this family." So I chose her and walked away. Years later, they showed up at my door begging to meet the woman they once rejected. My name is Jason, I'm 28, and this story is about how I chose love over blood, and how the family who once turned their backs on me eventually came knocking on my door, begging for forgiveness. When I look back now, it feels like a lifetime ago. Yet every word they said that day still echoes in my head. It all started when I met Emily, a woman whose heart was bigger than her circumstances. She wasn't born into wealth or privilege. She worked 2 jobs, helped her younger brother through college, and still found time to smile like the world had never hurt her. She was kind, grounded, and real. Everything my family wasn't. I grew up in a house where appearances mattered more than feelings. My parents were obsessed with reputation, with status, with what the community might say. When I first brought Emily home, I remember my mother's eyes narrowing like she could see right through her clothes to her modest roots. My father didn't say much at first, but his disapproval hung in the air like smoke. The dinner was uncomfortable, with my mother asking subtle yet cutting questions about Emily's parents, her job, her background. Emily smiled through it, trying to stay polite, but I could see the hurt in her eyes. That night, as we drove home, she stayed quiet for a while before saying softly, "Your mom doesn't like me, does she?" I reached over, squeezed her hand, and said, "She just needs time." But deep down, I knew time wouldn't fix prejudice. Weeks turned into months, and the more serious our relationship got, the more my family resisted. They started dropping hints that I deserved better. They tried setting me up with daughters of their friends, lawyers, doctors, and women from families who owned companies like my father's. But I didn't care about titles or bank balances. I cared about how Emily made me feel, grounded, free, and seen. Things escalated the night I told my family I wanted to marry her. We were sitting around the dinner table, my parents, my sister Chloe, and her husband. I remember the sound of my fork hitting the plate when I said, "I'm going to propose to Emily." My mother's smile froze. My father put down his glass slowly, then looked at me with that cold, disappointed expression he reserved for failures. He said, "Jason, don't be foolish. You're throwing away everything for a girl who can barely pay her bills." I felt my blood boil. She works harder than anyone I know. She doesn't need money to be worthy of love. My mother leaned forward, her voice sharp. "Love doesn't pay the mortgage, Jason. You're a businessman, not a dreamer. You need someone who can match our family's standards. That girl is beneath you." That word, beneath, stuck to my chest like a knife. I tried to stay calm, but then my father said something that changed everything. "If you marry her, don't expect this family to stand by you." The room fell silent. Chloe looked shocked but didn't say anything. My hands trembled as I said, "Are you saying I have to choose?" My father didn't blink. "Yes, either you end it, or you're no longer part of this family." I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. "Then I guess you don't have a son anymore." And I walked out. That night, I went straight to Emily's apartment. She was sitting on the couch, reading, when she saw my face. "What happened?" she asked. I sat beside her, took her hand and said, "I just lost my family, but I still have you." She started crying, whispering, "You shouldn't have to choose me over them." I smiled, even though my chest hurt. "I didn't choose you over them, Emily. I chose what's right." We married quietly in a small garden behind a friend's house. No expensive decor, no lavish dinner. Just a few close friends, some fairy lights, and the sound of our vows mixing with the wind. It wasn't what my parents would call a proper wedding, but it was ours, pure, honest, and filled with love. I remember looking at Emily as she said, "I do," thinking that for the first time in my life, I felt truly free. The first few years were tough. I started my own small marketing firm from scratch, and Emily supported us by working at a local school. We didn't have much, but we had each other. There were nights we ate instant noodles and laughed like we were dining at a 5-star restaurant. Sometimes, late at night, I'd wonder if my parents ever thought of me. I missed them, But every time I remembered the look of disgust in their eyes when I mentioned Emily's name, the pain turned to strength. 5 years passed before we finally found stability. My business grew beyond what I could have dreamed. I started with one client, now I had over 50. Emily became a respected teacher at the school, known for her patience and compassion. We bought a house together, not a mansion, but a home built on love. Then, one morning, I got a call from an unknown number. When I answered, the voice on the other end made my heart stop. "Jason, it's your mother." There was a long pause. I could hear her breathing shakily before she said, "Your father's been sick. We need to talk." For a moment, I couldn't speak. Part of me wanted to hang up. Another part wanted to rush over. But I stayed quiet until she said, "Can we come see you?" I agreed hesitantly. When the day came, Emily opened the door to find my parents standing there. My mother looked older, fragile even, and my father, the once proud man who controlled every room, looked smaller, his eyes dull with regret. We sat in the living room, the air thick with unspoken words. Finally, my mother spoke. "Jason, we were wrong. About everything." Her voice cracked. "We judged her without knowing her. And we hurt you more than you ever deserved." My father nodded slowly. "I thought I was protecting you, but I was just protecting my pride." Emily sat beside me, her hand on my knee. She smiled gently and said, "It's okay. People change when they're ready." Tears filled my mother's eyes as she whispered, Can we get to know you both again? Please." For a long time, I just stared at them. All the pain, the anger, the loneliness, it rose up inside me, then slowly faded into something softer. Forgiveness didn't come easy, but I realized holding on to hate would only chain me to the past. I looked at Emily. She nodded slightly. Then I turned back and said, "You're welcome here. But understand, the woman you rejected is the reason I became the man you're proud of today." From that day on, things changed. My parents started visiting often. My mother and Emily spent afternoons cooking together, sharing recipes and stories. My father helped me expand my business with his old contacts. It wasn't perfect. There were still awkward moments, still silent apologies, but there was love. Finally, one evening, as we all sat in the backyard watching the sunset, my father looked at Emily and said, "You were never beneath us. We were beneath you." She smiled, tears in her eyes, and whispered, "All that matters is we're family now." And in that moment, I realized something profound. Sometimes, you have to lose everything to find what truly matters. I didn't just choose Emily over my family that day. I chose compassion over ego, heart over status, and love over approval. And that choice made all the difference. Love should never be measured by wealth or class. Real love grows from respect, not reputation. If you believe in standing up for love even when the world stands against you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more real stories of heart and courage.